So Vic, talk to me about landing, takeoff, altitude, climbing, whatever you think is appropriate. I think probably the first thing would be landing. That's probably the hardest thing, right? Or that's the one it's a bit tricky.
Not particularly.
Very good.
I really wouldn't say it's a tricky aircraft to land. My first landing was probably one of the best ones in it. The one thing you need to keep in your head that if it does start to drift a little bit, just give it a little blast of power.
So you get control of the rudder again.
Yeah, and it'll straighten up, and it generally tracks really, really straight. I mean, I've landed it in 5, 6, 7 knot crosswinds without having any issue with it.
And you have a skid also. You have no wheels.
Skid, no brakes.
No brakes.
There's a little flange on the bottom of the skid to give it a little bit more side to side.
That's a good question
Stability.
too, because it's pretty big. Yeah, there's like a small knife, I guess, a knife.
Yeah,
thing
well,
there.
basically it's a blade with a slot down. The blade was, I think I cut it and then put it in a little forge I've got, and hammered both sides into the spoon shape. And pulled them together, and there's got a piece of 3mm steel on edge down between the two spoons, and that sticks out at the bottom a little bit. And in fact, yesterday or a couple of days ago, knowing I was coming here and possibility of crosswind, I actually built it up with a little bit of weld with the MIG welder, and just ground it down to ground it back in again because it had worn down quite a lot.
Very good.
And actually that same flange has got a hole. If the aircraft was that way, it's got a hole in the back of it, and I've got a little tow bar, and I put a little 3/16 bolt through it, and the tow bar goes down, lifts it up, and I can put it behind either my truck or it goes behind a little John Deere Gator, and I can pull it into the strip.
I saw that. They're very good.
This is a picture. That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
I picture. I'll edit some in right here, and we can actually people can see that.
Yeah, it works really well. It's got a little two-way spring thing in the tow bar, so it cushions in both directions.
As Vic described
Very cool.
the design of the skid, by the way, which is the little spoon, that's exactly as it's described on the drawings,
Yeah.
on the Z21. But it's not on the Z1S drawing because you have to use the Z21 drawing to look at the basic philosophy of the whole design.
Yep. So landing, you say it's no problem with landing. Do you actually? What about the specifics? Because you have a skid and not a wheel. Would you like better a wheel? No wheel?
I don't think it makes much difference in the initial roll. It's just the directional control, and as I say, remembering just to give it a little blast of power. But generally, it tracks very, very well. I've not had a problem with it.
But the thing is, as you said, just keep bursting power, so you get authority over the rudder.
Well, yeah, but maybe only once, and not every landing do you need to do it. Very often, I'll just land, pull the throttle back, land, and then just get to the end, and it's not a problem. But if it does start to move, just a short blast of power, just pull it straight, and it's not an issue. The hardest thing with it is turning it around on the end of the runway.
Yes.
You sort of forward stick, wage of power, but my engine has got quite a lot of thrust on it, so probably Lynn says it works fine, you're right in the tire that comes around, but mine's got so much thrust it actually picks up speed quite quickly. But there is an optimum speed on the turn. You sort of get it going, and then with a certain amount of power you can just keep going round with it, and it works quite nicely once you've got the knack. But it is a knack,
And I guess worst case scenario, if you're an amateur, you stop, you get out, you pick up the plane, and
I have to do that sometimes.
But it's really light. You just have to pick it up and just walk with it. Almost.
Yesterday morning, taxiing out because the wind was in the wrong direction, I came towards the hedge, thought I'll start turning now, and it wouldn't go round, and I was going for the hedge, so I just pulled the power back, hopped out, lined it up, and that happens. Lynn says he has to do it every so often.
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, that is a price to pay for having a skid, but it sounds like a very cool price to pay in my book.
What's nice about it is sort of there's a level of adventure to it.
Exactly.
There's a level of uncertainty and adventure. You never quite know what you're going to finish up with, but
it's great. Again, worst case scenario, you just stop and get up.
Yeah.
Get out.
But the actual landing itself, I usually put the door down, and it flies nicely with the door down. With the screen I've got, I can use it with or without goggles.
Okay.
And it's just sometimes it'll wheel on. Sometimes I'll just feel the main wheels and I'll just give it a little bit of forward stick until the speed comes back, and just do a bit of a wheeler. Otherwise, just hold it off. Sometimes it'll do a little bit of a hop, but generally it's fairly It's not a big deal.
So
at
you
all.
like landing on wheels, not a three-pointer kind of thing.
I don't have a preference. It's just that sometimes you just feel the main wheels just hit first, and I'll just give it a little nudge forward just to catch it. It's either or. I think I wheeled it when I came in here yesterday. I just felt the wheels just kiss first, so I turned it into a wheeler. But it's not a preference. I never specifically go for one and the other. Sometimes it turns out one way and sometimes the other. So
There's nothing that gives you more control, because I think that's a problem area, is that it's just the transition between you're flying and not flying.
Yeah, but I don't think the transition is any difference between a wheeler landing and a three-pointer, because by the time the tail has come down, it's reached the same point as the authority goes whichever way you land it. So I don't think there's an awful lot to choose. I haven't noticed it anyway.
No problem with that.
No, not really. No.
What about coming in? Lynn keeps saying that he likes because if you just come in straight, like a Boeing, you just can't see in front of you.
He's absolutely right, and it makes the whole thing a little bit easier as well. Not only, I mean, holding it, I come in fairly high, but you can't really see much. But actually, that curved approach makes the whole, including the flare, it makes the whole thing easier somehow.
So you're talking about like carrier landing style.
Yeah.
So just go like in a curve at your final.
I mean, I do quite a tight curve in, maybe only 200 or 300 meters, a base leg, and just a long curving base leg, and just flare and land.
Then you can keep an eye on what's.
I didn't the first few landings, and Lynn said try it, and it's actually easier.
And it looks cooler though.
It does look cooler.
Yeah, the women like that.
Yeah,
you just come in.
Yeah, I'm fighting them off now. Every time I do that,
Very
they
cool.
come out of the woods and out of the hedges,
Yeah, the Corsair guys come to see you, say, "Yeah, good landing."
Yeah. So it is easy. It's definitely easier visibility-wise, but it also seems to make the flare, the whole thing comes together really tidily with that sort of approach. So yeah.
And also, obviously, there's no aileron on it, so you slide slipping when you need to drop faster.
It does side slip, but there's drag, and with the power back, I very rarely have to side slip it
Because there's so much drag.
Yeah,
when there's no power, were you going down?
You're going down, and it's the same. If I was doing the VNE testing a couple of months ago, and actually you're really, it's surprising. There's a biplane.
That's it. So it's draggy.
Yeah, it's draggy.
Yeah, you have no choice.
No, so I probably have side slipped a couple of times, but it's not something
you don't really need it.
You really don't need to do it very often. I've side slipped a little bit along the runway when there's a crosswind, just to keep it in line, and then just picked it all straight just before it turned.
Very good.
But it's easy.
What about takeoffs?
Quick.
Okay, do you go fast, slow, or richness? Any special pointers or?
No, I tend to put the stick forward as soon as I start to put the power in. I put the power in, stick forward. The rudder authority is immediate.
Immediate.
Yeah. It never wanders off. As soon as you got the power in, you've got authority over the rudder. The tail comes up quite quickly, and just.
But you do push the elevator a bit, so you're trying to raise the.
Yeah, I put the stick well forward. I get the stick up. I get the tail up as soon as I can.
That's it, and that's to give you authority, because or else the skid is just walking you down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want the plan is to get off, get the tail off, so you actually have lateral control. Or something. Very good.
Yeah. So stick forward as I increase the power, really. Just get it going. Yeah.
So go to flying speed and slowly go up, pick up speed on the ground, slow the ground first.
I don't know what the peel off speed is. You just, it seems to be going reasonably quick, and you just ease it back a little bit, give it a little bit of angle of attack, and when it's ready, it'll just fly off, climb out maybe 65. The approach I fly at about 60. The stall is in the mid 40s, about 46, I think. So the approaches will be at 60, the climb out maybe 65. It gives, 900 feet per minute, 800 or 900 feet per minute generally.
I saw you climb out yesterday. It was awesome.
It was good as well.
It was really cool. I mean, this RV trying to catch up, and you were like out climbing
really satisfying. That's good. I'm glad about that. Good.
And I do have both planes.
Yeah.
I'll edit them right here so we can see it.
Okay, good. I look forward to that. Good.
Any pointers you want to add? to Flitzers that are about to get finished or flying?
I found it a really easy aeroplane to fly. As on the first flight, I'd done some fast taxiing. I'd got the tail up, put it down again, and on the first flight, by the time I got to about 300 feet or so, this is just a pussycat. And it really is. It really is a very easy aeroplane.
There's a video of this on.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a really cool video because you like playing with the ship, and it's your first flight
Yeah.
already, eh?
Yeah.
Very.
Well, I went up for 25 minutes, and it was just what's to worry about? It really just handled beautifully. There was no issues on it whatsoever.
Very good.
Yeah.
V&E, what was your V&E?
Well, initially it was tested up to 145
Miles?
miles. It's all in miles now. The LAA have given a VNE of 130, so effectively knocking 10% off. So the VNE is 130, but you'd really struggle to reach VNE. You'd be almost vertical. It really is a very steep descent rate. So, the 130 is absolutely fine.
And what's your engine in it?
It's a UL 260, which is, I think it's rated at 97 or 98 horsepower at 3,300. But Rupert supplied the propeller, Hercules.
Yes.
And we were talking about it a lot, and we decided that if you've got a fast aeroplane, you can move a relatively small amount of air really quick, fast. But on a biplane, you want to move a mass of air slowly because it's never going to go that quick.
Mm-hmm.
So we reduced the max RPM. I think it's down at 2875 RPM, so we could get a much bigger prop on it.
I see.
So the engine has got a Grand Rapids engine monitor on it.
Okay.
Which monitors EGTs, CHTs, fuel pressure, all sorts of stuff. And
That's really good. Visually, it kills a bit the authentic look, but it's so much. That system is really nice, right?
It's an expensive engine, and I'd rather look after the engine than it be.
No, for sure.
And what's nice about that monitor, you can set limits in it, and there's a big red light. So if it goes out and it takes you straight to the page, which is great for the RPM limit. So
for everything, right?
Yeah,
I know.
Specifically for that, because we put a relatively fine prop on it, it will overspeed quite quickly. Whereas you just get this big red light shine,
and then you see which one is.
Instantly it's the RPM. So you just pull it back a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's a really great system.
Which means that it'll cruise nicely at 2,800 RPM. You're in the cruise RPM effectively. So you could run it all day at 28, which gives me a good honest 100 miles an hour.
A good honest 100 miles an hour. That's awesome.
And it's running at that engine is giving me probably about 16 to 17 litres per hour at that setting.
As a comparison, on the prototype Z1, I get about 92 mph on a good day on a 60 something horsepower engine, using again 3,000 RPM because the propeller's optimized for that RPM, and it's got a good all-round performance. That propeller pitch is 34 inches at the root and 32 inches at the tip, by the way.
Yeah.
And it lost 2 inches due to an argument with the field of prop because deer were trying to collide with the airplane on takeoff, but it hasn't made much difference. It's going well.
Vic, tell me about the actual flying, turning. You're not in the aerobatic mode yet, but I guess you're slowing.
I am on the test permit. I can aerobat it. It hasn't got an aerobatic permit, but me and Dan are both allowed to aerobat it to do an assessment on it. It's very light on the controls. I haven't flown a basic Flitzer, but it really is tiny little movements with the 4 ailerons. You just think about it, but it's not oversensitive. You don't think, oh my goodness, where's it going? It's just very light. And very easy. Even at aerobatic speeds, entry speed of maybe 100, 110. It's not a huge heave. It's very light all the way through. Nothing. I can't remember what Dan said he was getting.
240 degrees, 240 a second, or
Something like that, I think he said. Yeah, it's fairly fast though.
I guess the turn rate, the technical term is it gets you dizzy real fast.
It probably would. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add about flying?
There's not much to say about it. It's just a docile, lovely little aeroplane to fly. Just light, sweet. and no vices that I've found yet. It does everything that it should do without biting.
Okay, let's say you have an engine failure. There we go.
Well,
Let's go the hard way.
Yeah.
You have engine failure.
Yeah.
What would be the thing to do to keep in
Well,
mind?
you'd need to get the nose down fairly quickly with the amount of drag. But I've always thought that an engine failure with a fairly draggy aircraft is actually relatively simple because you're so, it's so obvious where you're going to go to. You haven't got a long glide, you haven't got a huge number of choices. But
And that's
it will
because of a
also get-
biplane, right? Same with a Tiger mod or a Stomp.
but you can get into almost anywhere. It makes it relatively easy. There's no great shakes to it, I think. It'd be alright. You could side slip in almost anywhere, couldn't you, Lynn?
I sideslipped into a field after having engine failure in the Z1, and to my amazement, I planned to arrive over the hedge at about, 20-30 feet to get into the field. And it was gliding so well, I was about 100 feet over the hedge, so I had to slip it off very sharply.
Yeah.
Because basically, even though it's a draggy biplane, the basic things got eye struts, which are quite streamlined. The A-frame cabane's quite low drag. It's the draggiest part of the undercarriage, in fact. So, for what it is, it glides quite well. But fairly steeply, as they all do.
Very good. Vic, I'm sure you're thank you very much.
You're welcome. You think of any other questions, you just forward them.
Very good. Thanks, Lynn.
Okay, no problem. Listen, Vic.
Yeah.